Welcome, David. Welcome to this podcast. Mr. David Tarimo, our board chairman. And I think a good way to start this conversation today as we embark on our 25 years of Vodacom is probably to take a step back to your career and say, you spent nearly 3 decades at PwC, both within PwC Tanzania, but also had some regional leadership roles. You also have continued to shape national policy through different platforms like the Presidential Tax Reform Commission and the CEO Roundtable.
Yeah.
But now as chairman of Vodacom Tanzania's board, how do you see this wealth of leadership and policy experience shaping your approach on its next trajectory?
Yeah, thanks, Phil, for those questions. And as you say, it's a slightly different environment I've come from, but I think there's a lot of relevant experience and context that I can bring to help the organization. I think, firstly, a big aspect is around building trust, particularly around the regulatory piece. And I feel that my experience, having been at the intersection between business and regulators, whether it's in dealing with regulatory issues or in assisting government on policy issues. So more recently, I'm on the Tax Reform Commission. I've been on the Mining Commission in the past. I feel I have a unique insight into how both sides sort of see their bit of the equation. And I think that ability to understand the perspectives of the different sides can bring a lot to the table. Certainly for mobile as a complex business, but a fast evolving one, and with a lot of regulation involved, it's a very important part of the piece and one that we need to pay attention to. The other aspect I would say is, if you've been in a professional services firm, you have unique access in terms of span of clients and understanding of really what's happening on the ground in terms of regulatory challenges, what are the areas of risk, what are the areas of opportunity, and so on. And then that's sort of been amplified in the role as chairman of CEO Roundtable, because I regularly get to interact with, all the senior CEOs, and then that's another touch point in terms of, what's really happening. I think lastly, as Vodacom, you're part of a regional organization. And within PwC, we operated as a regional organization. So I understand the strengths and opportunities that can bring, whether in terms of leveraging resources, creating opportunities for people, and really just sharing knowledge about how best to improve the business. And certainly I'll be looking to see how, as at Vodacom, we can better utilize our network and indeed share knowledge from Tanzania with others to help them as well.
So it's interesting that we sort of start off as if this is still a long way out from you, taking on the role of chairman, but you almost were halfway through the first year as chairman. And what experience or encounter most affirmed your decision to lead the board? And now that you've been in 6 months, do you look back and say, actually, this is why I said yes to this opportunity?
Yeah, so obviously you jump in and you don't necessarily know 100% what you're getting yourself into. And right at the beginning, there was an induction process where I was taken around various of the Vodacom facilities, met with senior management, met with the people. And to be honest, I think it was at that point that I felt I'd made the right decision. Firstly, in terms of the people, it's an amazing group of people here at Vodacom. You can feel the spirit, but you can also see the actual abilities of the people. So talent is key. The obsession with customer service. And I witnessed firsthand going to one of the call centers and seeing how individuals were engaging with customers to solve their problems. So that was impressive for me. And then lastly, innovation and just seeing what's going on in that space. So
Yeah.
I'd say that in a nutshell was what sold it
Yeah.
to me.
No, it's interesting you say that. I mean, I think a couple of weeks back, we were looking at our engagement index, and we call it the spirit beat. And when we get the results, each time we get the results, we go back into the detail to see, what exactly a staff member is saying. And in one of the instances, actually a comment that was made by the frontline staff, why they feel like this is really a great place to work. This is a place that actually takes and considers customers first. Was they made reference to the board chairman visiting the call center, and for them there was such a momentous occasion that actually even the board chairman went to see them, which amplifies the customer obsession in the organization. So well done on that.
Yeah, thank you. And I think just to add, I mean, if you want one anecdote, it was from a particular individual who had worked with Vodacom for a number of years, left to move to competition,
Right.
and then came back and explained why they came back. And it's not necessarily around financial, but it's really around how the team worked together, the spirit, the collaboration, the opportunity for growth and development.
Right.
And that was really quite inspiring.
Yeah, great. No, thank you. And I mean, if I'm to sort of take this further out and say that Vodacom Group, as being part of a group, Vodacom Group has just set out its 5-year strategy, and in terms of connect for a better future, and with one of the pillars there being innovate for growth, and within innovate for growth, driving connectivity, market leadership is a key call out in that regard. From your vantage point as chair, how do you see Vodacom scaling this leadership in ways that directly empower Tanzanians, most especially the youth and women, because these are segments that have actually been identified in various studies, whether it's in the National Development Plan, or even when you actually look at the, I think it's called the FinScope study, where, amongst some of the underserved groups, they speak of youth, women, fishermen. I think some of those groups that the trade SMEs and so on are some of the groups that that needs intentional focus for development. But in your position as chairman, I mean, how do you see Vodacom playing a role, and what kind of partnerships or policy shifts are needed to unlock that potential?
Yeah, so I guess historically, if one hears the name Vodacom, you think about mobile, and that was the genesis of the organization, right? So people being able to connect through calling one another. But I think it's around what I think we describe as the beyond mobile piece that can unlock so much opportunity. And it's really looking beyond the traditional services. So certainly M-Pesa has grown, and that needs to be scaled up. But it's looking at the other opportunities, I think, that can really help enhance broader digital financial inclusion. So whether you're talking about loan products, investment products, Mwekeza, savings products, Mkoba, which I think particularly seems to benefit women.
Yeah.
Now, to achieve this, at the end of the day, it does need effective partnerships, whether with government or with the companies, indeed, that one needs to work with to provide those solutions. I think, lastly, you need a conducive policy environment.
Yeah.
So I don't know how widely it's understood, but the mobile sector is actually the leading contributor of indirect taxes, which is all well and good. But I think at the end of the day, we also need to understand that it's a fundamental infrastructure for enabling development. And therefore, we need a framework that enables services to be provided on a cost-effective basis, and then accessible to all. So whether you're talking about cost of services or even the cost of the hardware that you use to access services.
Yeah, I mean that's actually a very good point, which sort of brings me to our next question. That we are a purpose-driven company as Vodacom, and we're living in a time of rapid global change. And from your perspective, especially now that you speak about the sort of that connection between policy and technology advancement, or policy and technology working together to shape, a more inclusive and resilient future. How can a company like Vodacom, and using our technology broadly, play a more critical role in advancing the development and action? Because, and I think it's probably very close to the previous question with regard to, in terms of where you sort of laid it, but being maybe a lot more specific with regards to how Vodacom can actually be a catalyst for advancement, progress in Tanzania, using the strengths that we have, which is our technology, but actually looking at that and saying, okay, if technology is going to be a big enabler, for advancement, how then do we work with policymakers to make sure that actually policy is shaped and aligned to the direction that we should be taking?
Yeah. So, as I've said, connectivity underpins sort of development. And if we look at our population today in Tanzania, it is a young and growing population. And so, first of all, I'd speak to opportunities around education, health, leveraging digital. We are a very agricultural focused economy. And again, there are huge opportunities around leveraging digital to help farmers operate more effectively, more efficiently, and really manage the climate resilience piece, a lot better. So those are points I speak to in terms of development. Now, we can put the technology in place, but you also need the appropriate regulatory and policy environment. I've sort of alluded to the question of appropriate level of taxes, but it's broader than that. It's around issues such as cyber security. There are a whole raft of regulatory considerations that need to be taken care of with mobile, data privacy, and equally you need a policy that enables, because it's fine to have access to the technology, but people have to have the skills to be able to meaningfully use it. So, how is policy enabling the skills development? So I think I'd come back to that partnership point again, that really we need to work with companies, governments, and communities in co-creating solutions, and thereby enabling the digital innovation that will help us address these challenges.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of partnerships, what compact should Vodacom's board make with the country on inclusion, rural coverage, affordability, and open platforms? What two priorities would you, for example, hold management accountable to with regards to actually achieving these objectives, in as far as especially it relates to Vision 2050 that the president recently launched, and you will have seen in there that there is, Tanzania is being very ambitious, bold, wants to turn the economy into a $1 trillion economy by the year 2050 from today's sort of 86 billion. So I think there is a realization, even when you read the document, that tech is going to be a key player in that space and so on. But I think, all these are good on paper. At the end of the day, there needs to be, government partnership with the private sector. But I think bringing it home, what would you be sort of holding management accountable to and saying, okay, here are the two things or three things that actually we need to drive as Vodacom, or we need to be known to be driving, or that we think we can catalyze to actually become a critical enabler for this 2050 vision?
Yeah. So I think it's going back again to that piece around the non-traditional services and expanding the scope of what we're doing in that space, because that speaks to deeper integration of digital into everybody's lives and more enablement. So the challenge to management on that side will be to demonstrate that we have pushed the envelope on the opportunities beyond the traditional mobile. I think secondly, it would be around the sort of social impact piece. You know, the various initiatives, you can talk about a mama or a Code Like a Girl. All these in their own way have a big impact ultimately on the society and ultimately digital and financial inclusion.
Yeah. So as we conclude, maybe my question would be, which public measure would you want Tanzanians to judge Vodacom by?
So Phil, that's a slightly complicated question, because when we talk about public, who are we talking about? We're a listed company. So one aspect of public is actually our shareholders.
Yeah.
But clearly the bigger aspect of public is the customers. Ultimately, if I was to look to one metric, it would be market share, because it speaks to a lot of pieces of the equation. Clearly, shareholders would want to see market share because that will drive financial performance. But market share also speaks to quality, trust, innovation, growth. So that would be my response to that specific point, Phil.
Yeah, and that's, I think, a great ending, because customers connect with us because of all the things you've mentioned. And ultimately, those things actually talk to reputation. And I think one of the things that I'm particularly proud about as Vodacom Tanzania and as the CEO of Vodacom Tanzania is how our reputation index has continued to grow every year. And today, you know, we are one of the most reputable organizations in Tanzania, but also one of the most reputable Vodacom companies within the group. And it's no surprise that we also grow in share because, you know, reputation is sort of underpinned by all these other things that you were talking about. So thank you very much. And I hope that was an impactful discussion for you.
Thank you.
Great.